Welcome to my channel. Today we're doing a yoga flow class with focus on backbends. Alright, hey everyone, let's get started. Come into a child's pose, any child's pose that you like that allows you to soften and round out through the spine. Arms either stretched out in front of you or by your sides. Take a few breaths here to relax and soften for a moment. Few breaths to center. Breathe in through your nose and out through your nose. Let's take that one more breath. Next inhale, start to make your way up into a tabletop pose. Knees about hips width apart, hands about shoulders width apart. Good spread to those fingers. Arch the spine. And the next inhale, allow the belly to drop. Lift your chin up slightly. Coming into cow pose. Exhale. Really press down into those hands to arch the back. Cat pose. And inhale to cow pose. One more time. Come back to a flat back tabletop and make a C shape with the spine. Turn your gaze over to one shoulder. Let the hips shift slightly to that side. Inhale back to the center and same thing on the other side. Inhale back to center and to the first side. Inhale and exhale. Good. Inhale back to the center and draw back into child's pose. While staying in child's pose, walk your fingers over to one side of the mat. Get a good deep side stretch here. Inhale back to center, walk it over to the other side. Inhale, let's bring it back to the middle. Back up into a tabletop pose. Do a couple more of those cats and cows. Exhale, arch the back. Inhale, let the belly drop. One more time. Come back into a flat back tabletop pose. And then walk your hands slightly further forward. And allow the belly to drop, or allow the chest to melt down towards the ground, keeping your hips up high, coming into puppy pose. Forearms can be on the ground, or those arms can be straight. Good. Come back up slightly and walk your hands over to the left side, or over to one side, doesn't matter which side. And a puppy dog side stretch. In this pose, allow the chest to melt, keep the hips up high. Inhale back to center, walk the hands over to the other side. Get a good stretch, take deep breaths, keep the hips up high, let the chest melt. Excellent, come on back to the center. Now let's draw back up into a tabletop pose and curl your toes under, lift your hips up and back, coming into that first down dog. Okay, so knees can be slightly bent here as you work on lengthening the spine. Keep the shoulders in a nice neutral position. Press down into those fingertips. And then exhale to straighten one leg, keeping the other knee bent. Do the inhale. And exhale to switch. Let's do that again. Bend one knee, straighten the other leg, and switch. And then finding your way back to a down dog, both legs a little straighter, those heels reaching down towards the mat. Finding length in the back of the legs. Send your gaze up in between the hands. Bring your feet to the top of the mat. Just walk it forward for now. And just let the upper body relax forward. Start to feel a stretch to the back of the legs. So initially the knees might be slightly bent as you just let the upper body relax. But after a few breaths, start to lengthen out to the back of the legs and soften the shoulders. Feel free to roll it out a little and move the head. Maybe even sway the upper body side to side. Good. And then back to the center. Just allow the upper body to relax forward. Next inhale, lift up halfway. Come into a flat back. Look for lots of length in the spine. Maybe your hands resting on your thighs or your shins. And just long spine, long neck. And then exhale to fold again to forward bend. Inhale, bend your knees. Sweep your arms out as you stretch those shoulders. Reach your arms out and overhead. Let the palms meet overhead for a gentle back bend. And exhale, bring your hands into prayer position. Stick those arms and shoot them straight upwards. Stretch your arms up. Bring your arms into a cactus position or a goalpost position. Goddess arms. And press your chest up towards the ceiling. Take a gentle back bend here. Stretch your arms back overhead, palms meet, and exhale to fold into forward bend. Inhale, wave up halfway for that flat back. Exhale, plant your hands on the mat. Step the first one back into a high push-up position. Shoulders stacked directly over those wrists. You can stay here on your toes or bring those knees down as you take low push-up. Elbows hugged in close to the body, strong abdominal muscles. Belly drops, and inhale through into a gentle cobra. Only go as high as necessary to feel that stretch. And next, exhale, curl your toes under, take it back into downward facing dog. Hold it here. One more deep breath. At the end of this exhale, step, walk, or hop your feet up to the top of the mat. And once you get there, inhale lifts you up halfway for a flat back. Exhale to fold, forward bend, and inhale. Come all the way back up, stretch your arms out, let the palms meet, gentle back bend, and exhale, hands back to prayer. Good, let's keep going. Inhale, arms overhead. Take goddess arms, low, gentle back bend, flaring the chest up towards the ceiling. And inhale, stretch those arms overhead. Exhale, fold, forward bend. Inhale, wave up halfway, flat back. Exhale, hands on the mat, step, walk, or hop back into high push-up. Taking low push-up on your toes or on your knees. And inhale through into Cobra. If you're coming into up dog with those thighs lifted off the mat, strengthen those legs, engage those legs. Next, exhale, stick it back into downward facing dog. Pressing down into those hands, lifting the hips up high. Rise up onto your tiptoes, bend both knees, and have the chest melt down towards the ground, letting the head hang loosely here. Maybe bringing the belly towards the thighs as you bend the knees a little deeper. One more deep breath here. And then straighten those legs. Lower the hips down onto the mat. Take one foot and lift it off the mat. Try a little higher. Maybe about hip height or higher than that. Bend the right knee, pointing that foot straight up towards the ceiling. And then shift your weight forward. Try your best, shifting the shoulders over the wrists. Keep pressing the right heel up towards the ceiling and maybe turning your gaze forward, flaring the chest forward. Gentle back bend and stretch it back up into three-legged dog. Gently lower the right foot down onto the mat. Reset here. Take breaks whenever you need to. Next, take the left foot, lift it off the ground. Again, only go as high as comfortable. And then bend that left knee, pointing that heel straight up towards the ceiling. Stay here or shift forward so that the shoulders are stacked over the wrist. Keep pressing that left heel up and then turn your gaze forward, flaring the chest forward. And then take it back into three-legged dog. Lower that left foot down onto the mat. A little bit of movement here, pedaling out the feet or shifting the hips side to side is encouraged. Find your way back to down dog, deep breaths. At the end of this exhale, send your gaze up in between the hands. Step, walk, or hop your feet up to the top of the mat. Once you get there, inhale to lift up halfway. Exhale to fold, forward bend. Inhale, let's come all the way back up. Stretch your arms out. Let the palms meet. Take a gentle back bend. And exhale, bring your hands back to prayer. Inhale, reach those arms overhead. Let's bring it into that cactus pose again. Stretch your arms overhead. And fold into a forward bend. Inhale, lift up halfway, flat back. Exhale, hands on the mat. Step, walk, or hop back into high push-up. Coming into your low push-up. Inhale through into Cobra or upward facing dog. And exhale to flow back into down dog. Good. Down dog, take the right leg and lift it up high. Three-legged dog. Option to bend the right knee and open up, pointing that right knee towards the ceiling, lifting the right hip a little higher than the left. Level off the hips, step the right foot forward to come into a runner's lunge or low lunge. Gently lower the back knee down onto the mat. Point the back toe. Make sure the back knee is comfortable. Front knee is stacked over the front ankle. And either stay where you are with the hands on the ground or begin to make your way up. Hands on the thighs, so you can even sweep that left hand up or both hands up towards the ceiling. Maybe bring those hands together, and if it's alright for you to deepen that back bend, being very careful with the low back as you draw back into a deeper crescent low lunge back bend. Alright, let's hold it here. One more deep breath, and then release. Bring those hands back down onto the mat. Take a moment for a counter stretch by shifting the hips back, straightening out the right leg. A good stretch the back of the right leg. Maybe lifting that right toe up towards the ceiling. Good. So walk those hands back forward. Shift back into downward facing dog. Stay in down dog. Or if you want a little bit more today, shift forward into high push-up. Take your version of low push-up. Inhale through into Cobra or upward facing dog, and exhale to flow back into down dog. Before we move to the other side, shift forward into high push-up. Carefully lower all the way down onto the mat to come into Sphinx pose. Place the forearms on the ground, feet above hips width apart. Allow the belly to drop slightly. Press the chest forward, and nice long spine. And just holding it here. Only if you could use a little bit more, walk the feet out a little wider. Same thing with the hands, they come out a little wider. Try pressing into the hands to lift the elbows off the mat. Again, being very mindful, allow the chest to draw forward and then lift upwards. So it's like a gentle swoop of the chest forward. Let's take that one more deep breath. And then very carefully lower all the way down onto the ground. Push your way back up into tabletop position. Take a few of those cats and cows here. Arch the spine. Gently let the belly drop in cow pose. And then carefully make your way back to downward facing dog. And you know what to do. You can just stay here in downward dog or make your way forward and take your vinyasa, low push-up, cobra up dog, and back to downward facing dog. Good. While remaining here in down dog, take your left leg and float it off the ground. Three-legged dog. Option to bend the left knee and open up, stacking the left hip higher than the right. Pointing that knee towards the ceiling. Good. Level off the hips and carefully step the left foot forward or help it up so that the front knee is over the front ankle. Gently lower the back knee down onto the mat. Point the back toe. Keep those hips level, chest level, shoulders level. If you need more, start to make your way up. Hands on the front thigh. You can lift that right hand up towards the ceiling or both hands. An option to deepen into more of a back bend, drawing the shoulders and the hands away from the front. Beautiful lunge. One more deep breath. And then shifting forward, lowering the hands back down onto the mat. And before we step back into down dog, walk your hands back, straighten the front leg. Point that left toe up towards the ceiling. Try to keep the spine long. Take that one more deep breath. And let's walk those hands back forward. Make your way back to downward facing dog, going through your half sun salutation if you like. Exhaling back into downward facing dog. Let's shift forward and come all the way down onto our belly. Okay. Take your left hand, stretch it out. Plant your left leg down onto the ground. Reach your right hand behind you to grab a hold of that right foot. Holding onto the outside of that foot is fine, or for a little bit more shoulder stretch, bring that right hand to the inside of the right foot so that the thumbs are pointing up towards the ceiling. And then use the strength of your right leg to press into the foot to come a little higher into a back bend. And you can use a little bit of that left hand to lift you up to try to keep your shoulders level with one another. This long spine, soft face, breathing. Going to half bow pose, this is called. One more deep breath. And then soften, gently release that right foot all the way back down to the ground. It's a moment here to release, maybe shifting the hips side to side or lifting the feet off the mat and letting the feet drop side to side in gentle windshield. Okay, let's work on the other side. We'll keep that right side of the body on the ground. Right hand stretched out, right foot on the ground. Reach around to grab a hold of that left foot, choosing your variation. And then we're going to take an inhale and then exhale, pressing into that left hand with the left foot. And you can use a little bit of that right hand to help keep the shoulders level. Gaze forward, long neck. Keep breathing. It's the strength of your leg that's doing the bulk of the work. One more breath. And very carefully release all the way back down to the ground. Release that left foot. Curl the toes under. Push back up into a tabletop position. And give it a few cats and cows here. So just let the spine round. In cat pose. Inhale, let the belly drop. In cow. Okay, if you want to take it back into a child's pose here for just a quick break, you're more than welcome to do that. Now let's find our way back to downward facing dog, going through a half vinyasa or heading right back to down dog is fine. Good. At the end of this next exhale, gaze in between the hands, step, walk or hop your feet up to the top of the mat. Once you get there, inhale to lift up halfway, flat back. Exhale to fold. Inhale, let's come all the way back up, stretching your arms out and overhead, taking a gentle back bend, and exhale, back to the start. Let's take our inhale, reach the arms overhead. Goddess arms, flaring the chest up towards the ceiling. Stretch those arms back up. Exhale, fold, forward bend. Inhale, lift up halfway for that flat back. Exhale, hands on the mat. Step, walk or hop back into high push-up. Take that low push-up from your toes or from your knees. Elbows tuck in close to the body. Inhale, draw your chest forward into Cobra or upward facing dog. And exhale to float it back into down dog. Take that right leg and stretch it up high, three-legged dog. Okay. Let's draw that right knee in towards the belly. And just either hovering here in down dog or shifting forward into a knee plank. Just a little bit more today. Take that right leg, stretch it up and back. Do that 2 more times. Inhale forward. Exhale back. Once again. And I'll step the right foot forward to come into a crescent lunge. Right foot forward, curl the back toe under. Now, if you don't want to come into crescent lunge today, softer version is to have the back knee down and lift up that way instead. So, hands on the ground to start off with, and then we'll work to lift up. It's okay to have the back knee slightly bent as you work to keep the spine straight up and down. And we'll reach those arms overhead, coming into your crescent lunge. And just hold it here, or you're more than welcome to take that goddess arms and try to come deeper into that back bend. Keep that breath flowing. One more deep breath. Stretch those arms back up. Release the hands down onto the mat. Come into extended pyramid, straightening that front leg as best as you can. It's okay if it's slightly bent. Back toe is curled under. You can get a little bit more by pressing the heel down towards the mat as well. Then one more deep breath. Carefully walk forward back into our downward facing dog, or take that flow. Excellent. Shift forward into a high push-up. And lower all the way down onto your belly, just resting for a moment. And we're going to come into a full bow pose this time. I don't come deep into bow pose, but if you are able to come really deep into it, do that. For those of you who do not want to come into a full bow pose, you can place your forearms on the ground in Sphinx and lift the feet, and you get a great alternative for that back bend. Okay, so with our full bow pose, we're going to reach around with both hands, holding on to the feet. Okay. And you can hold on to the outside or the inside if you wish. Imagine that you're holding a ball or block in between those knees. And allow the shoulders to relax and the head's just going to come along for the ride. Come along for the ride. Okay, so squeezing into your imaginary block, press the feet into the hands as you lift the chest off the ground. So as you come into this, be very mindful. Lots of pressure on the low back, so you have to make sure that you're being very mindful in this movement. Bulk of the work done by your feet. Keep that breath flowing. Again, the neck is just along for the ride. Okay, one more deep breath. And then you'll slowly release and gently lower the feet down onto the mat. Curl the back toe under. Push back up into a tabletop. And very mindfully, you're going to take those movements, shifting hips side to side, or coming into cats and cows. Anytime you need to come back into a child's pose, you'll do that as well. Good. All right. So let's make our way back to downward facing dog. Taking that half sun salutation if you need to, if you need a little bit more. Okay. Let's take that left leg and stretch it up high, three-legged dog. Draw that left knee in towards the belly. Stay right here. Or shift forward to hover the shoulders over the wrist in knee plank. Left leg stretch up and back. Inhale forward. Exhale back. Once again. And back. Let's carefully make our way into that runner's lunge. Step the left foot forward to help it up. Again, back knee can come down for a softer version. Okay, I'll keep that left knee, the right knee off the ground. So you make your way up. And hands on the thighs is fine. You work to straighten that back leg as soon as you're able to get the spine straight up and down. Need a little bit more. Reach those arms overhead, coming into crescent lunge, steady gaze. Even more, we'll work into our cactus arms as we lift the chest up towards the ceiling. Just being very careful here. With the low back. And stretch those arms back up overhead, crescent lunge. Release the hands down onto the mat. Straighten the front leg as best as you can. Maybe lifting the left toe off the ground for a deeper calf stretch. One more deep breath. Okay. Let's come back forward, take it back into downward facing dog. Okay. So we're going to come forward again and we're going to work our bow pose once again. Okay, so come all the way down onto the belly. And if you don't want to do bow pose, we'll take another back bend, Sphinx pose. Sphinx pose with the feet lifted off the mat. All right. Let's try that once again. Imagine that ball in between the knees and reach around to grab a hold of the feet, hands on the outside or the inside. Squeeze the imaginary ball. Relax the neck, relax the face. A big inhale. And exhale. Press the feet into the hands. Hold it, keep breathing. Last one. And exhale and release. Soften, release the feet down to the ground. A little bit of movement, letting the hips shift side to side. Or maybe feet coming off the ground and taking windshield wipers. So we do what we can. I'm quite limited in my back bend. Maybe a little bit more flexible and you're able to lift the legs up a lot higher than that. That's fine. We all work at our own pace. Okay, let's come back into our tabletop once again. Be sure to take those cats and cows. Arch the spine. Let the belly drop. Okay. We're going to revisit our puppy pose here. Just walk your hands forward once again. Allow the chest to melt. Maybe with the forearms off the ground, you'll find a lot more space now. Perhaps this time the chest can touch the ground. Keep breathing. Take that one more deep breath. And then press your way back up. And we're going to find our way back to downward facing dog. Going through that half vinyasa if you want a little bit more, as always. At the end of this next exhale, send your gaze up in between the hands. Step, walk, or hop your feet up to the top of the mat. Once you get there, inhale lifts you up halfway. Exhale to fold and tuck it in, forward bend. And inhale all the way back up. Stretch your arms out. Let the palms meet. Take a gentle back bend. And exhale. Hands back to prayer position. Okay, good. So now we're going to come into a dancer's pose. We are going to use those same principles to come into our dancer's pose. So that foot against the hand, pressing against the hand. So we're going to start off with the left foot on the ground. And we're going to hold on to the right foot. Again, the grip can be one of two ways, on the outside or on the inside. For this demonstration, I'm going to hold on to the outside. Find your gaze and focus on that spot. Take your right foot into your right hand and try to keep those knees close to one another. Left hand stretches up towards the ceiling, and this can be your dancer's pose, just pressing that right foot into the right hand. Carefully hinge from the hips as you bow forward. And you're going to press that right foot into your right hand to deepen the shape. And one more deep breath. And then carefully make your way back up to standing. Release that right foot down into the mat. Give it a little bit of shake out. And let's continue to flow. Just a half sun salutation. Inhale, reach the arms overhead. Take that goddess arms. Take those goddess arms, stretch those arms overhead. Exhale, fold, forward bend. Pause here for a moment. You can grab opposite elbows, so let the arms just dangle down towards the floor. Good. Let's inhale to lift up halfway. Exhale, just a fold here, just a fold into a forward bend. Inhale, come all the way back up. Stretch your arms out. Take a gentle back bend. And exhale, back to the start. Let's work the other side. So this time the right foot is planted down onto the ground. I'm going to reach around to grab a hold of that left foot. Try to keep the knees together as you stretch that right hand up towards the ceiling. Find a steady spot to focus on. If you're hinging forward, go ahead and lean forward. And then if you think you want a little bit more, come a little deeper into that bow shape, press that left foot into the left hand, doing your best to keep hips and shoulders level. Keep breathing. And here we go, one more. And then carefully, very carefully make your way back up. Take your time. And release the left foot down to the ground. I'm going to walk it off a little here. And let's flow hands in prayer. Inhale, stretch arms overhead. And exhale, just a fold here and forward bend. Again, you can grab opposite elbows or just let the arms dangle down towards the ground. Good. Next, inhale. Lift up halfway. This time we're going to head back into down dog. So plant your hands on the mat, step back, either head right back to down dog or take your sun salutation, low push-up, Cobra, up dog, and back to downward facing dog. Good. Let's go ahead and lower the knees down onto the ground, and if you need a little bit more cushioning, you can roll your mat under or place a blanket under those knees. All right. So So I'm going to come into a bit of a camel flow here. And you can do camel with your hands on your low back and just think of stretching out the front of the body. You could use a couple of blocks on either side of your foot, or you can curl your toes under, and that way the heels comes up a little higher and you can look for the heels that way. Okay. All right. So we're going to do 3 camels. Let's start off with the hands on the low back. Let's take an inhale, lift the chest up high, and exhale to lean back. You can stay here with the hands on the low back. Try your best to keep the hips in line with those knees. Okay. Stay right here, or lower one hand down. Let's lower the left hand down onto the heel. And maybe stretch that right hand up towards the ceiling. And if you need a little bit more, reach it back. Do your best to keep those shoulders level. Take your gaze straight up towards the ceiling. Keep breathing. And release. Bring that right hand back down to your waist. Carefully make your way back up into neutral. Tuck your chin in slightly. Stay here or lower down into a child's pose just for a moment to soften. Alright, and then roll your way back up to camel pose. Hands on the low back. Inhale to lift. Do your best to keep those hips over the hips as you're leaning back. Stay here, or take that right hand, place it on your right heel. And do your best here to keep the hips and shoulders level to the ground. As you reach the left hand up towards the ceiling, maybe leaning it back towards the back. Try your best to keep those shoulders and hips level. Keep breathing. Gaze straight up towards the ceiling. And then very carefully release. Slide that right hand back up the leg. Neutral spine, stay here. Or release into a child's pose, softening and breathing. Alright, we're going to come back up again and try to do a full camel. So that felt quite intense for me. I'm going to make it a little easier now by curling my toes under and having the heels up a little higher. But if you want to keep those toes pointed, you go ahead and do that. Okay, so we're going to come into that back bend again. Remember, if you're feeling enough, you can just come into a regular, gentle back bend here, keeping your hands on your low back and just focusing and opening up to the front of the body. And if you think you could use a little bit more today, take one hand, reach it back, you grab a hold of that heel, and then the other. And remember, we're doing our best to keep those hips in line with the knees. No crunching in the low back. This long front of the body. Keep breathing. Gaze straight up. Neck is nice and long. Lots to remember. Alright, here we go. One more deep breath. And then very carefully we come out of this pose. Hands back into your low back. And then we'll make our way back into a child's pose. Just allow the spine to gently round in any child's pose that you like to be in. Let's come into a counter stretch, our rabbit pose. Bring your knees together, bring your heels together. Hands by your side and let the forehead touch the ground. Grab a hold of your heels with your hands. And then roll from your forehead towards the crown of your head. It's not going to reach all the way to the crown of the head, but you're still holding on to your heels as you lift your hips off the mat. It feels great after all that back bend. Just stretch out that low back, back of the body. And lower the hips back down onto the ground. We're going to come into thread the needle next. Before we do that, just shift forward into the tabletop and just take some cats and cows and shifting the hips side to side. Make sure you're not holding on to any tension in that low back area. Okay, so after all those back bends, it will feel really good to come into a spinal twist. We're going to thread the needle. So to do this, I like to take my knees a little wider in tabletop position. So knees a little wider, toes together. And place that right hand directly under the face. Take your left hand, stretch it up towards the ceiling. And now that same left hand will thread under the chest to the opposite side so that your shoulder relaxes on the ground. If you're feeling enough in that low back area, you can stay as is. Or you can press the right hand down onto the ground for a deeper twist. Right hand up towards the ceiling even more. Maybe a little bit more by taking that arm across the low back and pressing open even more than that. This should feel good after all those back bends. That's good. Let's unwind that back to the front. Take it back into a child's pose. Nice and neutral spine here just for a moment. Let's do the other side. Come on back up into a tabletop, knees a little wider, toes together. Place your left hand directly under the face. Take your right hand, reach it up towards the ceiling. And right hand threads under the chest to the opposite side. Thread the needle. Again, little modifications with that left hand pressing on the ground, left hand up towards the ceiling or across the low back for a deeper twist. Excellent. Let's carefully unwind that. Bring your weight back to the center. Press up back into a tabletop and draw those hips back into child's pose. All right, so we're going to press our way back up. And I'm coming into a supported fish pose to end of this class. As a little bonus, if you would rather come into another heart opening stretch instead of coming into Shavasana, we can do a supported fish pose, and it should feel really nice, opening up the chest area a little bit more, and it's more restorative as well. So if you're going to come into that, this make use of a block or bolster under the length of the spine. Since I have blocks handy, I'm going to use that. It's going to come up against the upper back. Okay, so it's going to line up against the upper back, in between the shoulder blades. And there's going to be a block for the head as well, just so that the neck is not in an awkward curve. A nice and long neck. This is just an option. You can come right down into Shavasana if you like instead. So coming down into a supported fish pose, a really beautiful opening for the upper chest, into especially those pectoral muscles right under the collarbone. So as we come down into this, you can stretch your legs out, or a little bonus with the legs, you can bring it into a cobbler's position. And then also just stretch your arms out about shoulder height to get that great stretch and opening through the front of the body. Whether or not you choose to come into Shavasana or into cobbler's pose, try to stay here for another 5 minutes or so, a little longer if you can help it. And I'm just going to let this video run a little longer so that you can enjoy your Shavasana. Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed that. Namaste. Whether or not in Shavasana or in your fish pose, just allow the body to relax. Feel your limbs grow heavy. Soften your face. Relax. Sink deep into your space. And with calm, relaxed body and calm, relaxed mind, enjoy your Shavasana. Enjoy peace.